Just, yeah, can you do that?
We are living on 3511 Aloha Avenue at the beginning of the roundabout. And I think it's about the subdivision of Mrs. Soraya.
The matter before us is not about the subdivision. It is simply about the frontage.
Yes, yes, okay. Exactly. The problem also, I don't know if this is also a subject, is the parking situation right now. And there are two tenants parked from 3520 on Aloha, and there were more tenants in this roundabout, and the situation is almost unbearable already. In case of emergency, there would not be any access to any fire brigade or ambulance. Even the Alpine trucks and CRD, they have problems. They have to turn around in front of the roundabout. That's the situation right now. And yeah, our main concern is the parking. If there are any guests, there is no way to get into our section of Aloha anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other members of the public?
I'm Susan Michant, 83516 Aloha Avenue. Regarding the cul-de-sac, the parking, stands a circle median, and I owned about that to have center parking put in, but there's hydro boxes there. So maybe it was the engineer that said it wouldn't be possible to put some center parking in as other cul-de-sacs have. But it's a bit of a narrow turn, and numerous times the trucks have had to back out. And that hasn't been like a fire truck or anything, the garbage truck. So the suites, three of us have suites. So we get tenants parking on the street, and then if we have visitors. So it turned into quite a traffic jam. And we're not talking about the subdivision right now, but that will be further complicate the situation. So if it's really the hazard right now, and this is for the new homes and so I'm just hoping you'll all take a look at that and see what we can come up with.
Thank you. Any other members of our public? And I'm just going to give one last chance if you wanted to speak to anything. You're good? All right, we shall move on to Mayor's message. A number of items to bring to everyone's attention coming forward. Starting tomorrow, April the 26th, 9:30 till 1:30 in the afternoon, rain or shine, at the Pitt House Park down at the Ocean Grove development, is the Greater Victoria Green Youth Team invading the area to remove blackberry and broom. And so they're looking for, although it's a primarily youth event, they are willing to take on all takers that want to come and pull broom and rip out blackberry bushes. So have at her, folks. Thursday, April the 28th, Royal Bay School, first musical, Nice Work, if you can get it, at the Teach-A-Mista Theatre. It starts at 7 p.m. There are a number of us attending. There are tickets available, and you'll have to contact the school on that one. Not to forget, Friday and Saturday, Colwood Spring Cleanup from 8:30 to 4 p.m. on both days. Small fee, you can bring in all of your clutter items in and dispose of those. There's a local fundraiser being held through Royal Bay Teach-A-Mista Theatre, David Cameron and Dunsmuir, and I haven't done the follow-up on this one to find out exactly, but it's called Dueling Pianos. So it sounds interesting. It's a direct from Vegas act. a unique musical fundraiser. So again, the information for all of these are on our website. Sunday, May 1st, Emergency Preparedness Fair and Display from 11 till 3 at West Shore Parks and Rec. So you can get your fill of fire trucks and all things to do with emergency preparedness. McHappy Days, Wednesday, May 4th. Visit your local McDonald's, and proceeds from their McHappy burgers go through to the Ronald McDonald House. We have also groundbreaking at the Wellness Center for Pacific Center Family Services, Thursday, May 5th, 345 Whale Road. Council, you need to let me know if you will be in attendance. Another open house, West Shore RCMP have their annual open house Saturday, May the 7th from 10 until 3 at the West Shore Detachment. And followed up, taking us on to Sunday, May the 8th, Mother's Day paint-in at Hatley Castle, just in time for Mother's Day. So, folks, it's usually a very wonderful experience down there, and a nice place to spend some time. So, have at it. Anybody else from council with anything on their lists? It's getting busier, it seems, as we move into the summer. Would also like to make mention that we did receive today our final check in regards to the age-friendly community planning and projects for our Colwood age-friendly plan. So that one came in. An acknowledgement to the Wanda Fuca seniors citizens for the contribution for them providing service to us at the time of Constable Beckett's funeral service. So they were appreciative of the small donation to them. Also, Vancouver Island South Film and Media Commission, again, thanking Council for their grant opportunity, that it will be put to good use in, what did they say here? Contribution of $1,000 helps support a local film industry that generated more than $165 million in direct spending in Greater Victoria economy over the last 10 years. Your support continues to allow us to promote the CRD international filming locations, bringing hundreds of films and TV productions to our local area. McHappy Days we've heard about, and I think that's it. We're good. So with that, we can move on to adoption of the minutes. We have one set of minutes from April the 11th to adopt.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. A number of minutes for receipt. Emergency Planning Committee, January 19th. Heritage Commission, March 9th. Parks, Rec and Culture, February 24th. Pioneer Cemetery Board, June 23rd, 2014. Planning and Land Use Committee, March 1st, 2016.
Move receipt.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Correspondence requiring council direction. We have a letter here before us. There was also a letter provided to you at your tables from the Greater Victoria Cycling Coalition that kind of corresponds with this one. So the request in this letter is a letter of support or endorsement from the City of Colwood towards the ask of having, I'm trying to find my highlighted section, endorse the Victoria Regional Transit Commission's request to increase the dedicated fuel tax applied to in the region under the BC Transit Act by 2 cents per litre to support transit system development in the capital region. Council? Councillor Day?
Thank you. I would move that the letter from Susan Bryce, Chair, from March 10th regarding the request for the motor fuel tax to fund transit investments be received, and that we provide a letter of support for the Victoria Regional Transit Commission's request to increase the dedicated fuel tax by 2 cents per litre to support transit system development in the capital region.
Seconder, please.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Thanks. I won't be supporting it because I actually don't believe in that taxation for BC Transit should come through gas. I think that should just be a general taxation, and I find it a little ironic that the letter that we're looking at tonight is none of those people, the Cycling Coalition or anyone, would be affected by the increase in taxation. Only people who are actually driving would be affected. So I actually am not going to be supportive of that motion.
Councillor Knoll?
I also will not be supporting that motion. I think tax on gas to fund transit taxes, taxi cabs, it taxes trucks, it taxes delivery vans, it taxes lawnmowers. It taxes an awful lot of people that aren't going to be able to use public transit for their functions. So I think it's not a good kind of tax to put on. I think there should be stronger provincial support for transit. I think they should be improving transit in areas where service is poor, and I understand this tax is supposed to fund that, but there's nowhere that's any guarantee that the bus service is going to be any better than it is now to Colwood or Metchosin or all of the other areas that will be paying this gas tax. So I think a gas tax is not a good method to fund the transit.
Councillor Day?
Thank you. Just some of the supporters that are in the letter that's on our table includes the Walk On Victoria, the Greater Victoria Placemaking Network, and the Women's Everyday Bicycling, or the We Bike Association. Those are all people who probably also use a car as well as walking or cycling. And we've worked quite a lot recently at the Intermunicipal Advisory Committee on Disability Issues with our representative on the Accessible Transit Advisory Committee to advocate for increased and improved services within Colwood. And it's my understanding that if we are able to achieve the gas tax increase to support transit, that could translate into an additional bus being put onto the number 52 route, which could then greatly improve our service down to Esquimalt Lagoon, which is one of the destinations in the user-friendly trail guide, which provides outing opportunities for people with disabilities who may not have any other method of getting out into nature. And it's an area that's been improved. There's accessible washrooms, there's an accessible picnic table. So I think, given our choices, a limited number of choices, whether we put it on our property taxes or we put it on our gas tax, I think I would prefer that it be on our gas tax, because you can't choose whether or not to pay your housing taxes, but you can choose to consolidate your routes, you can choose to take transit, you can choose to find more affordable ways to do things. So I think it puts the most choice and the most options in the hands of our residents.
Councillor Logan?
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree on both accounts. The province needs to step up and fund a little bit better, and I think they're starting to invest a little bit more in the region. But I think we need to put our money where our mouth is, and there's only so many times you can come back to the property tax payer with cap in hand. The thing I like about the transit tax is that tax is targeted. So as opposed to paying your income tax and wondering where the hell your money goes when you pay it to the province of British Columbia, you know that every time you put a liter of gas in your tank, and I cut my lawn, I drive a truck, we have a minivan, we go through a fair amount of fuel, so I will be impacted. But I know damn well that that money is targeted for a specific purpose, and for that I think it's worthwhile, and it's something that I think if people understand where their taxes are going to, are more receptive, as opposed to getting dumped into the abyss as is viewed now. So for that reason, I'm supporting this.
And I'll just add further that BC Transit has only 3 mechanisms of which they can get any funding. That is through property tax, through the fare box, and through the fuel tax. So that's what we have to operate within. The same amount of money, this 2 cents per, the 2 cents and on fuel tax is equivalent to a 22% tax increase just for transit. So I think it's a small way to garner funding that will provide that expansion and service that has been demanded throughout the region. Anybody else for comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Second letter before us is from Minister Fassbender, Minister of Community Sport and Cultural Development. And this one, they are asking, it's a tight timeline again, as per usual. This one here is information that they will be meeting with a wide array of stakeholders to explore issues pertaining to the sharing economy and develop a better understanding of the opportunities and challenges that they provide for citizens and communities in and around Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, etc. So although they have not approached us yet, this is sort of the pre-letter that they'll be coming. So it will be time to put your comments together at that time. Any questions or comments?
The staff recommendation.
No, it's just a receipt.
There's a staff recommendation for consideration. The recommendation is that the April 8th, 2016 letter from Minister Peter Fassbender regarding exploring issues related to the availability and provision of transportation and accommodation services such as Uber, Lyft, and Airbnb be received for information, and that staff be directed to send a letter to the Minister Fassbender under the Mayor's signature advising that the City of Colwood looks forward to participating in the review of issues pertaining to the sharing economy and would appreciate receiving any relevant materials well in advance of the consultation process to ensure there is sufficient time to review and discuss the issues prior to providing feedback to the ministry. I did not write that.
Yeah, no, you did not. I was looking in my cheat sheet one. It's not in there. Any comments? Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. And the final correspondence is UBCM Bulletin Provincial Review of Auxiliary Constable Program. Information that was provided to us. And again, it's going to be questions and feedback that survey that we have to put together before May the 10th. So there is a staff recommendation on this one as well.
I'd be prepared to move the staff recommendation.
Seconder?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving then into new business, planning land use. 6.1.1, approving officer report request for further deferral of parkland dedication 3476 Wishart Road. Did we get to hear from you, Mr. Holdenby?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you'll recall, Council passed a resolution in July last year which established the date of December 31st, 2015 for dedication of the first park area in the subject development. Later in 2015, the developer encroached into the intended park area in contravention of the terms of the original development agreement and damaged a portion of the area through construction activities. Primarily because of this, but also because of delays in the approval of the first phase of development, dedication of the subject park has not taken place and should not take place until the steps necessary to ensure remediation of the damage are carried out. This will involve the preparation of an environmental development permit for the area in question, complete with the undertaking of impact assessment reports from both a professional arborist and a biologist, we actually have the arborist report in hand to be paid for by the developer. The proposed postponement of the park dedication deferral to October 31st this year will allow time for finalization of that development permit and the associated impact assessment reports. As an added measure at present, a security deposit in an amount satisfactory to complete the remediation work will be required from the developer as a condition of subdivision approval for Phase 1. Staff have no objections to the proposal and therefore recommend as follows: that the deferral of park dedications on the subject property be approved, provided that, firstly, the owner shall enter into a parkland provision agreement with the City of Colwood, specifying park dedication dates as follows. In Phase 3, dedication of a minimum area of 0.28 hectares on or before October 31st, 2016. In Phase 4, dedication of a minimum area of 1.51 hectares on or before December 31st, 2016. Secondly, as security for performance of the park dedication requirements, the owner shall register a Section 219 Land Title Act covenant prohibiting site preparation or building on lots within the second, third, and fourth phases of the subdivision until such time as park dedications are made in accordance with the agreement. Thirdly, if any of the lands included in the areas comprising phases 3 and 4 are to be subdivided prior to the specified dedication dates, the park dedications must be made prior to subdivision approval. Lastly, it's recommended that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to execute the subject park land provision agreement on behalf of the City of Colwood, and a copy of the draft agreement has been attached to the staff report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Someone to move the recommendation and second?
I'll move the recommendation for discussion.
I'll second.
Discussion? Councillor Knoll?
I have a very large reservation about the Section 219 covenant as proposed. There was already a Section 219 covenant on this property prohibiting movement onto Phase 2 and particularly prohibiting moving into the proposed park area. Both of those were done. I have no confidence that another 219 covenant will necessarily be respected, and I would ask staff if there's anything we can do to provide more security than just the 219 covenant.
Insofar as security for performance of the park dedication, as I mentioned, we are collecting security deposit for remediation of the park area, but re the performance of the dedication itself, they simply would not be able to proceed with further phases of development.
Are you thinking or are you following up?
I'm really uncomfortable with that. The 219 covenant already registered prohibited what's already been done. So I have no confidence that the new 219 covenant will be respected. How can the city guard its interests and the interests of its residents against the violation of this covenant, short of taking the applicant to court, should that happen?
Certainly legal action could take place if there was contravention of the covenant.
Councillor Day?
Thank you. Did I hear you correctly, Mr. Haltonby, when you said that you would be requiring a security deposit for the remediation of the park?
That's correct.
So the further phases of the development would not be able to be built without the dedication of the park, and the park is going to be secured by way of a just lost the word, a bond, if you, to ensure that the remediation is done in the park. Is that correct?
Exactly. The security deposit's directly related to the remediation action necessary.
Thank you then.
Any other members of council? I just concerned that we see this strengthened and covered off with the remediation security deposit on there is important. I want to see this developer succeed with this development and get it through. So I see this as being reasonable in the way of moving it along to ensure that the city gets what was there and prohibits any further destruction or degradation of the park allowed spaces that have been predetermined. So with that, if there's no other comments from Councillor Day?
Sorry, just one other point, because I read the report carefully, and it does mention the security bond that the approving officer would require, but the recommendation itself doesn't mention it. Would it be stronger in any way for us to include the requirement for a security deposit in the motion?
Staff?
I would caution that such an addition to the recommendation may be deemed or interpreted as an instruction to the approving officer, because the requirement for the security deposit I am treating as a subdivision approval condition. So I would guarantee to council that it will happen as a condition of subdivision approval, and I don't think it's necessary to put it in the recommendation.
Okay. Satisfied? Any further questions or comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6.1.2, recommendation development variance permit DVP 16002 for Latoria Walk 611 Brookside Road.
Thank you, Worship. In this situation, the applicant is proposing to erect a 4.2 square meter sign above what is existing, an existing 4.2 square meter freestanding sign that's located on the corner of Brookside Road and Veterans Memorial Parkway. The applicant is requesting a variance from the sign bylaw to permit the maximum sign area of a freestanding sign to be increased from 4.2 square meters to 8.4. It seems that when the original sign was built, the second floor office space was forgotten about. And so there wasn't any room left in the current sign for new tenants. The council that's driven by there will see kind of a freestanding sign that's not very complementary to the development. What they are proposing is to be more in keeping with the existing sign, to be complementary, and it'll be sympathetic and made of aluminum or flex panel, and will not be huge, and will fit in with the current design. There were some issues that were brought up by the neighborhood in terms of brightness and lighting and whatnot. The applicant has addressed those concerns and with staff, so the committee was quite satisfied that with some modifications as outlined in the recommendation that those concerns will be allayed. So it was recommended by committee, and I so move that development variance permit number DVP-16002 be authorized for issuance, which would have the effect of varying section 11B, subsection I of the sign bylaw, number 60, to relax the maximum permitted signage from 4.2 square meters to 8.4 square meters on the property described as strata lots, et cetera, in the motion. And B, illumination of signage to be pushed through letters on an opaque background in accordance with the plan submitted by Landmark Sign dated January 27th, 2016.
Discussion?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to, I don't know who, somebody. looking at the picture, one of the things I notice, and I see this with a lot of developments, is that there's continually something for sale in the building. So you're constantly seeing for sale signs, and you can even see there's 2 photos, or there's things in there. Is there any way to just make that as part of the main sign, that there's just something that says condo for sale, and then just a place where you put the address, rather than constantly having real estate companies having for sale signs always there, because there's always going to be a unit for sale.
Through the chair, I have the impression that for sale signs or for lease signs are usually temporary in nature.
Yeah.
I would only assume that for companies that want to install signage, they would prefer to have the signage for areas actually, I guess that would benefit the tenants. But it's something we can look into. There's an appetite for that. We are looking at updating our sign bylaw. If this is something that we want to look into, then we can include that in our review.
Sorry,
Yep, no follow.
just as a quick follow-up to staff, can you see the photo? Are you looking at it? Yeah, like there looks like there's one there already that says condo something for sale on the right-hand corner. It says condo something for sale, and I'm just wondering, is that a permanent sign? Is that a sign that we did they get a license to do that? Or is that just, because it looks like it's permanently there?
I'm not sure. I find it hard to tell.
Here,
It's
you
an
can look
odd
at my,
thing.
What's
It's hard to see what it says on there, though.
yeah, even when you zoom it in. Anyways, perhaps not this isn't the most appropriate time for it. It's just that, if we're talking about improving a sign, if we're basically doubling it, are some of those signs going to disappear? Or are all those signs staying as well? I understand that the Latoria Dental sign would probably disappear, but would they be allowed to put the for sale sign that's behind it? Would that be able to be put on that same piece of land? Like, I'm just trying to figure out what we're accomplishing here by doubling the size of their sign.
Madam Mayor, if I could just add that the applicant at the committee did commit to the 2 signs above, one that's advertising Latoria Walk being for sale, and one that's the Colwood Dental Clinic. He said both of those signs were going.
Yeah.
There was no reason for them to be there anymore once the new sign. I don't know about the little one with the condo for sale to the side. That might be something to investigate further when we're looking at our sign bylaw, because I think anyone who's selling a condo or a house has generally been exempt from any sign bylaw requirements, because those signs come and go so quickly.
Yeah, for me, our sign bylaw, our current sign bylaw does allow for sale signs limited to a certain size to be put up and kept up until the property has been sold.
Good. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 6.1.3, rezoning application for 474 Goldstream and 468 Goldstream.
Thank you, Worship. With this application, the applicant is proposing to rezone the property located at 474 Goldstream Avenue, which is currently zoned R1, and consolidate the property with the adjacent property at 468 Goldstream Avenue, which was previously rezoned to CD19. The consolidated site would be developed for a total of 158 units distributed in 3 6-story buildings, which would include 168 square meters of commercial space in the building fronting on Goldstream Avenue. In addition to the 2,470 square meters of parkland dedicated in the rezoning of 468 Goldstream Avenue, a further 1,100 square meters would be dedicated from the new zoning application. It was also noted that in keeping with the conditions regarding the previous rezoning for 468 Goldstream Avenue, staff are recommending that the Colwood Dairy Building be relocated and restored to a plaza fronting onto Goldstream Avenue. Through our discussions with at the committee level, Council will know that 468 Goldstream and its neighboring property are very long, narrow pieces of property. So this is seen as quite a benefit to the municipality in the ability to consolidate two, possibly a third piece of property, and therefore spreading the development out and creating some more space. As before, I'm not going to read the whole motion out. That was recommended unanimously by committee, but I will highlight a couple of key points that should be made mention of, and that is one of the conditions is that the applicant provide a site remediation plan prior to the introduction of the zoning amendment bylaw, and to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning. That indicates how the site will be remediated in the event that construction of subsequent construction phases does not proceed. And the second was that the committee wanted the applicant to provide an updated traffic study to support the installation and configuration of a traffic light, including the consideration of a left turn lane option on Goldstream Avenue. When 468 was considered some 6 years ago, there was a traffic study done, but it was felt with this application that it would warrant just an update, not a wholesale traffic study, but an update to the existing plan to see where we're at. So it was recommended by committee, and I so move the lengthy recommendation before us.
Discussion, Council? Councillor Knowlton, then Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended the meeting where this was discussed. There were no Colwood residents in attendance that expressed any concern whatsoever about the development. My concerns about the steep slope at the back being park have been addressed in item B3, requiring the plan showing minimal intrusion into the slope. And also my concern about having the dairy incorporated have been answered in B4, illustrating how the property could potentially be at 476 Goldstream, which is another property the applicant claimed he had a purchase opportunity on, could be incorporated into the development site. Given that there were no serious public concerns about this, I will be supporting this, at least to the point where we actually see the zoning bylaw and it goes to public hearing. But I will point out that the 30% of the property that we are achieving as a park is at a 45-degree slant. It won't be much good for anything except mountain goats and a wildlife corridor.
Any, Councillor Martin?
Thank you. I'm supportive of this. I guess my only question through you to staff or to anyone else who can answer it is, what if a study comes back that says the dairy is not able to be moved without damaging it? What happens then, since the recommendation reads that the Colwood Dairy be moved from its current location? So I'm just curious if we approve this evening, but then they come back and say that there's no possible way that that building can be moved without it's suffering significant damage. What then?
Well, as part of the proposal, we will be asking for a heritage consultant to review the building itself and how it can be moved and restored. If it at that point is determined that it cannot be moved, then I will probably end up coming back to council with amending the development agreement.
Councillor Day?
Thank you. I'm supportive of the development. I think it's phenomenal that we have the statement of significance for the Colwood Dairy, and that we have such a proponent who's interested in incorporating that into the identity of a new building. That's one of the second oldest building in Victoria. My understanding is, yes, the walls are very, very thick and they will be very hard to move. But the floor, which is made out of bricks, and is in phenomenal shape compared to any other building of that time frame, can probably be reconstructed because it can be disassembled like a jigsaw puzzle and put back together in the new place. So I think in worst case scenario, we may have more rebuilding to do than we have hoped. But I've seen a great deal of commitment on the part of the developer to preserve and maintain that area, and they have stuck with it for this last 6 years. So I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to draw a line under this one and see a good project come forward. And I hope that not goats, I think the goats are in Saanich, but the eagles and the vultures enjoy the cliff dwelling.
And any further comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into transportation public infrastructure, item 6.2.1, recommendation for 3520 Aloha Avenue, request to vary frontage improvement requirements.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This was before the Transportation and Public Infrastructure Committee. 3520 Aloha Avenue has made an application to subdivide the single-family lot into 3 strata lots. According to the subdivision and development bylaw number 285, frontage improvements are required. The owner was applying for a variance requesting that the frontage improvement standards be changed. They were asking a number of items. Committee reviewed those and makes the recommendation that council accept the property owner's request to vary the requirement for a concrete mountable curb and ornamental streetlight required by bylaw 285 for 3520 Aloha on the condition that the property owner provided the asphalt water control only in front of the property and 3 bollard lights installed around the edge of the existing cul-de-sac center median of Aloha Avenue and a cash donation of $1,500. Now, the cash donation of $1,500 was recommended by staff to be for frontage improvements on other areas. Frontage improvements in front of this particular property would be exceptionally difficult because when it was built, the cul-de-sac was built, there was not adequate right-of-way dedicated. So we're really restricted in what kind of improvements can be made there. Ordinarily, an ornamental light, like a high mounted light, would be required. In deference to the neighbors' concerns about light pollution and so forth, the committee recommended the bollard lighting option be chosen. That's the short little lights that project downwards. And I would so move the recommendation as in the report.
Discussion, Council? Councillor Martin?
Thank you. I opposed it at committee, and I'll oppose it again tonight. I think committee misunderstood, and I still think there's a bit of a misunderstanding. The proponent had offered $1,500 in lieu of doing the 3 LED lightings, and the committee decided to do the LED lightings plus the $1,500 contribution. I don't think we need to charge them both. There's definitely, I would be supportive of either, and it sounded to me as the neighborhood was comfortable with having the LED bollard lighting, so I am supportive of that, but I am not supportive of the additional $1,500.
Councillor Lubin?
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of things. I will be supporting the recommendation. A, it's consistent, and it would be a requirement of a developer or somebody that is developing a 1, 2, or 3 lot subdivision. So there's a benefit that there's 2 additional lots being created here in an area that is extremely desirable. So I don't have an issue with that. In fact, I think the 1,500 is probably on the low side, but a contribution is consistent with what we have required in the past. My only thing is I would recommend a friendly amendment that that $1,500 be directed to the Sidewalk Reserve Fund, which would be in keeping with past practice for continuity. And so if I'm happy to make a formal recommendation if or amendment if it's not accepted as a friendly.
I would accept that as a friendly amendment.
As would I.
Okay. Yep.
I friendlily, and unfortunately our Director of Engineering is not here this evening, but I had a direct conversation with our Director of Engineering, and he was quite clear with me that the engineering department never requested the $1,500. The $1,500 was a suggestion by the proponent, not by our engineering department. So I actually do not believe that is actually correct, which Councillor Logan has stated this evening, that we do ask for amenity, absolutely, but the 3 bollard lightings was definitely within the financial costs of what would be reasonable for this development.
Any other comments from Councillor Nault?
Not directly on that, but at that meeting, there were a number of residents of that area complaining loud and long about parking in there, particularly concerns about tenants parking. And I really believe that it would behoove us to have bylaw investigate how many legal suites there are in the area, because I know going down at that cul-de-sac in the evening, there's 5 houses and there's probably 15 cars parked all over the cul-de-sac, in some cases parked inside the curve radius and outside the curve radius. And I do know that garbage trucks going down there have to back up somebody's driveway to turn around because there's no way they can make it around the cul-de-sac. I shudder to think what should happen should we need to get a fire truck through there. So I think that is something that council might consider instructing staff to investigate.
I will ask that perhaps we'll defer that bit of things, Councillor Nault, to dealing with this motion. And if you want to add something subsequent to that, then we can entertain it. I won't let it go so that you have that
Thank you.
opportunity. Any other further conversation on the recommendation before us? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Councillor Nault will give you opportunity.
Thank you. And I would like to make a motion that given the neighbors' concerns about parking on the cul-de-sac, that staff be instructed to investigate how many legal suites there are there in existence and whether there are any illegal suites, and that probably the fire department should go and look in the evening and make comments on whether they could maneuver a fire truck through there.
I think we can make the direction to our CAO that he have staff investigate. Councillor Nault, make it a little bit this way. Direction is to CAO to have that conversation with staff. In the form of a motion, seconder on that. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving then into 3.2, report city engineer, accelerating the electrification of transportation sector. Is that on your cheat sheet? Pardon? Oh, wait a minute. I'm in my wrong agenda here because I was checking out the report from engineering on the other one. Let me get back in here. Yeah, I have a cheat sheet. Moves me around. I need a split screen is what I need. That was the only item before transportation. We are now moving to Parks, Recreation and Culture with a item 6.3.1, recommendation renewal of dog dispenser service agreement with Eagle Rise and Glenview Animal Hospitals. Councillor Chong.
Thank you, through your worship. On July 16th, 2013, the City of Colwood entered into an agreement with Eagle Rise and Glenview Animal Hospital. This was for installing doggy bag dispensers as well as providing the doggy bags. Eagle Rise and Glenview Animal Hospital have been so kind to provide this to the city at no cost. And the agreement does come up for renewal in August 15, 2016. And this is just being brought to council to approve the agreement, the renewal of the agreement.
And that renewal would go through to 2019, are we? Or how long is that?
Sorry, it says in the recommendation. Yes. So the recommendation reads that the City of Colwood renew the agreement with Eagle Rise and Glenview Animal Hospital with the following amendments to the regional agreement. One, that the parks will have to include Perimeter Park, Grattan Park, Ocean View Park, Herm William Park, Outlook Park, and Latoria Park. And this is because additional doggy bag dispensers have been put there. Two, that the agreement is for a term commencing August 15th, 2016 and terminating in August 15th, 2019, together with a right of renewal for 3 additional years, pursuant to Section 3. 3, that Colwood shall have the right to renew this agreement, and this agreement shall be deemed to be automatically renewed for 3 additional years for the calendar years of 2010 to 2022, inclusive, unless either party has given the other notice of termination, pursuant to Section 4, and 5, to remove the year 2013 after August 15th in the original agreement.
Second discussion, folks? Councillor Nault?
Yes, this is a very good service provided by these companies, and I'd like to point out that it costs the City of Colwood nothing, and that our parks foreman has said that since these were installed, there has been a great improvement in the cleanliness of our parks. So I will be supporting this wholeheartedly.
They're not hanging in trees.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Councillor Day?
Thank you. I just want to extend a huge thank you to Eagle Rise and Glenview Animal Hospitals for taking on this rather negative aspect of community and turning it into something far more positive. I think I used my very first doggy bag from one of their dispensers the other week, and I thought it was just lovely that it was there. I was astounded. I think that it's shown a great deal of leadership from a local business, and just would like to really give them a huge heartfelt thank you.
May I suggest that on behalf of council, when we do this new agreement, we also send a letter of thanks?
Be on it.
There you go.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Another item under parks is 6.3.2, recommendation park in Latoria Walk.
Thank you, through your worship. As part of the City of Colwood's capital asset replacement plan, it's crucial that our parks be named. So committee was discussing naming what has been informally named Latoria Walk Park. The suggestions brought forward from staff are Latoria Walk Park, Castlewood Park, or the option to further investigate other parks named based on Colwood pioneers, war veterans, Royal Navy vessels, and for that report to be brought back to committee. As discussion ensued, we felt that Latoria Walk Park was suitable, and so I moved the recommendation that 1, the park in Latoria Walk subdivision be formally named Latoria Walk Park, and 2, that an information sign with a schematic map of the park be installed at each of the 4 entrances to the park at a total cost of $800 with funding from the park sign budget.
Seconder? Any comments, questions? Councillor Day?
Thank you. I think that's great that we're naming the park and getting the signs done. It is really important that people know where they are so that if something goes wrong, they can pull out their cell phone and get help to the right place at the best possible time. And I thought about the name. It was quite appropriate. It could have been called Castlewood Park because Castlewood Drive is right there. But I thought it was also very appropriate that it be named Latoria Walk Park because we're also then directing people towards a commercial node in the area and the park that's nearby. So I think it's a win-win.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes parks, and we're into one bylaw reading for this evening. Bylaw number 1618, final reading of our 5-year financial plan. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks. Russell?